Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadhutam Purijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitam Cha Om Jnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Vishnupadaya Acharya Singha Rupine Shri Srimad Bhakti Pragyana Keshava Iti Namine Ati Marta Charitraya Swasitam Chapaline Jive Dukhe Sadartaya Shri Namo Premadaine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Shri Varshubhanavi Devi Dayitaya Kripabdhaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prabhave Namah Madhurujvala Pramadhya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namastute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rup Anuga Viruddha Apasiddhanta Dhantaharine Namo Gaura Kishoraya Sakshad Vairagumurtaye Vipralambara Sambodhi Padam Bujayate Namah Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gauravir Bhabhumistam Viddishta Sajjana Priyam Vaishnu Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannathayate Namah Mancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namah He Krishna Karunar Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jayatang Surato Pangur Mamo Mandamate Gati Matsarvasya Padam Bhujam Radha Madan Mohanam Divyat Bindaran Kalpadrumadhu Srimadat Nagarav Singhasanastu Shri Shri Radha Srila Govinda Deva Prasthalivi Sevyamana Smarami Shriman Rasada Sarambi Vanshivata Tathasthita Karshan Venukshanay Gopi Gopinatha Shriye Sunaha Vrindavai Tulasi Dibbai Priya Keshavasya Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Sattvatai Namo Namah Panchatatmatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya
Narayanam
Narayanam
Namaskritya
Namaskritya
Naran Chaiva Narottamam
Naram
Naram
Chaiva Narottamam
Sarvabhavana
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim
Devim
Saraswatim Vyasam
Saraswatam
Tato Jayam Udidayet
Tathujayam
Mudirayet
Nashto Praeshu Abhadreshu
Nashtapareshu Aptareshu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam
Bhagavata Sevaya
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhagavate
Uttama Shloke
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki.
Bhakti Bhakti
Bhagavati Nayataki.
Let us offer our most humble obeisances at the lotus feet of Paramahansa Chudamani, Srila Sukadeva Goswami, Srila Sutta Goswami, Srila Parikshit Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Vyasadeva, Srila Narad Muni, Srila Chaturmukh Brahmaji. Let us also offer our most humble obeisances at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, and all his eternal associates, beginning with the Pandavas and Bhismadeva. Let us also offer our most humble obeisances to the King of all spiritual literature, Sri Srimad Bhagavatam. May they bless us so that we are able to dive deep into this ocean of nectar of the pastimes of the Supreme Lord and his transcendental instructions, and thereby experience heartfelt joy. So we are reading from Canto1, Chapter 9, Verse 19. Bhishma's passing away. Tasyanubhavam Bhagavan
Bhagavan
Tasyanubhavam Bhagavan
Asyanubhavam Bhagavan
Veda
Veda
Guhyatamam
Pushyatamam
Shivaha
Shiva
Veda Guhyatamam Shivaha
Veda Guyatamam Shiva
Devarshir
Devarshi
Narada
Narada
Sakshad
Sakshat
Devarshir Narada Sakshad
Deva Narada
Bhagavan
Bhagavan
Kapilo
Kapilo,
Nripa.
Kripa,
Bhagavan Kapilo Nripa.
Bhagavan,
Oh my God. Where's
Kapilo.
this noise coming from? Hare Krishna, where's this noise?
Hare Krishna, Gurudev.
Where's this noise coming from? Anyway. Asyanubhavam Bhagavan
Asyanubhavan Bhagavan
Veda Gujyatamam Shivaha
Veda Guchyatamam
Tam
Shiva
Shiva
Devarshi Naradaha Sakshad
Deva
Devarsi Naradaha Sakshat
Bhagavan Kapilo Nripa
Bhagavan
Bhagavan
Kapilo
Kapilo Nripa
Asyanubhavam Bhagavan
Asyanubhavan
Asyanubhavam Bhagavan
Veda Gujyatamam Shivaha
Veda Guchyatamam
Vedaguyam
Shiva
Shiva
Devarshi Naradaha Sakshad
Deva
Devarsi Naradaha Sakshat
Bhagavan Kapilo Nripa
Bhagavan
Bhagavan Kapilo Nripa
Asyanubhavam Bhagavan
Asyanubhavam Bhagavan
Vedaguhyatamam Shivaha
Veda
Vedaguyam Shiva
Devarshi Naradaha Sakshad
Deva
Devarsi Naradaha Sakshat
Bhagavan Kapilo Nripa.
Bhagavan
Bhagavan Kapilo Nripa
Read.
Asya, of him, Anubhavam, glories, Bhagavan, the most powerful, Veda, knows, Guyajatamam, very confidentially, Shivaha, Lord Shiva, Devashihi, the great sage among the demigods, Naradaha, Narada, Sakshat, directly, Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Kapilaha, Kapil, Nripa, O King. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. O King, Lord Shiva, Narada, the sage amongst the demigods, and Kapil, the incarnation of Godhead, all know very confidentially about his glories through direct contact. Purport. Pure devotees of the Lord are all bhavas, or persons who know the glories of the Lord in different transcendental loving services. As the Lord has innumerable expansions of his plenary form, similarly, there are innumerable pure devotees of the Lord who are engaged in the exchange of service of different humors. Ordinarily, there are 12 great devotees of the Lord, namely Brahma, Narada, Shiva, Kumara, Kapil, Manu, Prahlad, Bhishma, Janaka, Sukadev Goswami, Bali Maharaj, and Ram Maharaj. Bhismadev, although one of them, has mentioned only 3 important names of the 12 who know the glories of the Lord. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, one of the great acharyas in the modern age, Anubhav, or the glory of the Lord, is first appreciated by the devotee in ecstasy, manifesting the symptoms of perspiring, trembling, weeping, bodily eruptions, etc., which are further enhanced by steady understanding of the glories of the Lord. Such different understandings of bhavas are exchanged between Yashoda and the Lord, binding the Lord by ropes, and in the chariot driving by the Lord in the exchange of love with Arjun, etc. The glories of the Lord are exhibited in his being subordinated before his devotees. And that is another feature of the glories of the Lord. Sukadev Goswami and the Kumaras although situated in the transcendental position, became converted by another feature of bhav and turned into pure devotees of the Lord. Tribulations of the devotees by the Lord constitute another exchange of transcendental bhav between the Lord and the devotees. The Lord says, Bhagavad Gita 10, I put my devotee into difficulty, and thus the devotee becomes more purified in exchanging transcendental bhav with me. Placing the devotee into material troubles necessitates delivering him from the illusory material relations. The material relations are based on reciprocation of material enjoyment, which depends mainly on material resources. Therefore, when material resources are withdrawn by the Lord, the devotee is 10% attracted towards transcendental loving service of the Lord. Thus, the Lord snatches the fallen soul from the mire of material existence. Tribulations offered by the Lord to his devotee are different from the tribulations resulting from vicious action. All these glories of the Lord are especially known to the great Mahajans like Brahma, Shiva, Narada, Kapil, Kumara, and Bhishma, as mentioned above, and one is able to grasp it by their grace.
Tasyanubhavam Bhagavan Veda Guhyatamam Shivaha Devarshi Naradaha Sakshat Bhagavan Kapilo Nripa. O King, Lord Shiva, Narada, the sage amongst the demigods, and Kapila, the incarnation of Godhead, all know very confidentially about his glories through direct contact. So one of the extraordinary features of Lord Krishna, he has extra 4 features above on his Narayan expansions. So one of them is Bhakta Vatsala, or other, he is always surrounded by extraordinary devotees. He is always surrounded by extraordinary devotees. Because he is Leela Purushottam, so that is another special feature. Leela Madhuri. It's got 4 features: Venu Madhuri, flute, Leela Madhuri is pastimes, Prema Madhuri, devotees, and Venu Madhuri is flute playing. So this feature of him being Prem Madhuri, there's several different, it is known with different names. Prema Madhuri, Bhakta Vatsalataha. So this particular feature, the transcendental quality of the Lord, is completely unique in him. And therefore, Leela is something which is not thought of before. The Lord never plans the exactly step-by-step unfolding of his Leela. That is done by Yogamaya. The Lord wishes and wants to have his wishes fulfilled. And from that point on, Leela Shakti and Yogamaya takes over the mantle. And creates a wonderful setting where Krishna is the master. He's always the master. Although he is in the pastime subordinate to his devotees, he loves that. So these confidential glories of the Lord are known only to some very special devotees. Now these 12 Mahajans, 12 great devotees, they are responsible for propagating the Lord's pastimes according to the time, place and circumstances. They decide. The Lord's pastimes are unlimited, incessant, and every single action, from the lifting of the eyebrow to the movement of the Lord's toes, it's an ocean of nectar that the devotees experience simply by seeing that. Because in every action, there is a particular emotion involved. The Lord's transcendental form is completely independent. They are each one of them. And therefore, Lord Brahma is saying that each one of his limbs can perform the activities of another limb. And simultaneously, it is not possible for us to simultaneously be fully engaged in hearing and at the same time fully engaged in speaking and at the same time fully engaged in meditating. And therefore, it is not possible for anyone, be it the 12 Mahajans, even Lord Balaram in his expansion as Ananta Shesh is unable to keep up with the Lord's pastimes. We have heard many times that there is a transcendental competition going on between Ananta Shesh and Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in their pastimes and describing these pastimes. Ananta Shesh has 1,000 hoods, and from each of his hoods, there's a different pastime being described. Not the same pastime. Because the Lord is performing his pastime, it is so variegated that 1, 2, 10,000 mouths are required. And still, Ananta Shesh cannot reach the limits of the Lord's pastime so that he can describe in full. So this is the actual truth about the Supreme Lord. And these 12 great souls have been selected by the Lord to reveal to the world. And they will reveal according to their understanding who is eligible, who is not. Because the main purpose of the Lord performing his pastimes on earth is to exhibit it before the conditioned souls only, who are there in the material world? Mostly the conditioned souls, and few liberated souls. So these pastimes of the Lord, they reveal according to each one's understanding. Whether one is eligible or not, that is decided by the 12 Mahajans. And whoever they select or elect to represent them makes us eligible. So, according to Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur of the great Acharya modern age, Anubhav, or the glory of the Lord, is first appreciated by the devotee in ecstasy. So when a devotee comes to that level, then our Mahajans, the 12 great souls, will reveal when the devotee is manifesting the symptoms of Asta Sattvic Vikar, the 8 different types of ecstatic symptoms. Perspiring, trembling, weeping, bodily eruptions. So all these are not at all controlled by the mind. It is beyond. Rather, these ecstatic symptoms, bhavas, they call bhavas, ashtasattvic bhava, controls the mind, controls the senses, controls the consciousness of the devotee, where it decides to manifest itself. And Prabhupada is also giving this very important point that we should consider, is that each pure devotee, in whichever relationship the devotee may be eternally connected to Krishna in, it is always an exchange of love. Always an exchange of love. And therefore, there is only spontaneity. In loving relationship, there is spontaneity. One cannot decide from beforehand what prayers I'm going to offer to the Lord, how I should come and bow down to the Lord. And all these things are not decided from before. Rather, the mind and consciousness of the devotee is so suffused with joy, exuding incessant joy, that simply by the desire to relish that of Krishna, with Krishna and his associates. Krishna is never alone. So it is always experienced and relished in the company of Krishna and Krishna's eternal associates. So here, Krishna is also teaching us by his actions these activities of the Lord, transcendent activities. They have a very profound meaning to them. Now, in giving the different descriptions of the different devotees, Prabhupada makes an extremely important for the conditioned souls, aspiring devotees, tribulations of the devotees, by the Lord constitute another exchange of transcendental bhav between the Lord and the devotees. And the perfect example are the Pandavas. Perfect. From the beginning to the end, so to speak, where Krishna then withdraws his Dwaraka pastimes before he enters into Samadhi and into the spiritual world. Till that stage, the Pandavas, the perfect example. There are so many other examples. But these tribulations, are they actual? Because they are in the platform of bhav, loving exchange, between the Lord and his devotees, the devotees experience extreme pleasure when they sometimes have the opportunity to think how the Lord has wonderfully navigated their lives through these crises, dangers, that not even a scratch was there. Now, these are Kshatriyas. So some physical wounds, and that's right. Even Krishna was wounded in the battle. It had to be. Otherwise, nobody would believe that Krishna came as a human being. Although he is not a human being, those who are confidential, are full of confidential knowledge about the Supreme Lord. Only those are avajanantima mudha. Those who are mudha, manushin tanum ashritam, param bhavajananto, mama bhuta maheshwaram. Krishna is saying only those who are mudhas, they cannot realize or understand my divine nature. And when I descend in the human form, then they think that I am also one of them. Because they don't know that the Lord is never displaced. No one can usurp his divine position of the Supreme Being, the Supreme Godhead. It always remains. But simultaneously he is able to do so many other things. But at the same time, although he is all the time active, he is active because he is Lila Purushottam. He is not active because he has to perform some work like conditioned souls, others. Natasya karjam karanancha vidyate. The Upanishad is saying Natasya karjam karanancha na vidyate. Cannot see him performing any kind of work. Karjam. So he is Leela Purushottam. He is all the time engaged in Leela. And anyone who understands this simple thing, Krishna has a very simple approach. He says, look, I'm telling you all these things in the Bhagavad Gita. Janma karma chame divyam evam javeti tatvataha trakta deham punarjanma naiti naiti mam arjuna. Anyone who understands the transcendental nature of my activities, will upon leaving the body, O Arjun, come to me. It's as simple as that. You see, because we are not willing to trust Krishna's words, which is in the form of the revealed scriptures, that's why we have to search after to establish whether what Krishna is saying is the truth or not. But anyone with a simple faith, he understands, yes, Krishna is saying that Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti bhajanti mam buddha bhavasam. That he is everywhere. Actually, this is not difficult to understand. That when Krishna is saying he is everywhere, just like the wind is everywhere, just like space is everywhere, all pervasive. So something mundane like the space is all pervasive. Why can't Krishna's energy be all pervasive? Why can't Krishna himself be all pervasive? But since we are not willing to give credence to his declarations, we are not giving proper trust to his. And then we have to engage in long, long research of trying to prove that what Krishna is saying is correct. So Krishna is saying, you come anyway. You want to go through the whole process of trying to prove that what I am saying is correct. Or whether with a simple faith you simply accept this is God is saying. And who is there in the entire creation who can speak in this manner? I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I am the Supreme Controller, I am the all-devouring depth. I mean, how many do we know? Even the greatest philosopher, they cannot think in these terms. So who can give such declarations and with such confidence? And it is backed up. He backs it up by his heroic deeds. Heroic deeds. He could be performing even more heroic deeds, but there has to be sufficient personalities who can keep up with him. Just like when he wants to fight. Then he empowers Jai Vijay. He empowers them, gives them so much of strength. And he inspires them from within as Paramatma. Go to Brahma, go to Lord Shiva, go to Indra, and beg for weapons and strength so that you can be a good match for me. A fight between very strong and brave personalities. Then it's a good fight. Otherwise, if the opponent is not at all up to the match, then what is the use? There is no great experience to see there. And that the Lord does not only in the matter of fighting. For example, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there was all these different scholars. Keshav Kashmiri, for example. He was a Digvijay. He had conquered, defeated in debate all the great scholars from all directions. And Navadip in those days were the center of learning. So when the scholars in Navadip heard that Digvijay is coming and he has been directly blessed by Saraswati Devi, they fled in terror. Somebody who has received the special mercy of Saraswati Devi, who can defeat? So such was the opponent. Very interesting. How Chaitanya Mahaprabhu defeated Keshav Kashmiri. Because he was of some match. Intellectually, there was some. He was able to compose, according to the descriptions of both Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami as well as Vrindavan Das Thakur, both of them have described this particular pastime from different perspectives. And Keshav Kashmiri was requested. There is another feature of the Supreme Lord, he is very extremely humble. He requested Keshav Kashmiri, we heard that you are such a great scholar. We are most blessed today by your august company. Kindly let us hear from you a composition on Mother Ganga. He was standing on the banks of Mother Ganga, Bhagirathi Ganga, Suradhani. So immediately, without even thinking, Keshav Kashmiri began his poetry and continued. 1 hour passed, 2 hours passed, 3 hours, incessant. Probably took a few little time to compose in his mind, and he spoke. So after he stopped, everyone was amazed. How is this possible? Such erudition. He had not composed this before and learnt it by heart, and then was reciting that what he has. He is extempore. Right at that moment he composed. So after about 3 hours, all the students of Mahaprabhu, they were all there. They just looked at him with jaws falling out. So then Mahaprabhu said, "Oh, great scholar, you spoke so fast and such beautiful composition. It was not possible for anyone to understand because he spoke so fast. So please kindly give us the meaning of one verse, any one verse of your choice that you have composed. To go a little bit deeper into it, we will be like to know. So, Keshav Kashmiri said, tell me which one. Which one should I comment on? Which one should I explain? Keshav Kashmiri was thinking, how will it be possible for anyone to give verbatim what he had spoken? He may or may not recollect himself all the verses, but it would not be possible for anyone other than himself. So he said, which one should I? So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually repeated verbatim one verse. His jaws fell open. How is this possible? I have composed it right now, here, extempore. And he heard it only once. So Mahaprabhu said smilingly that just like you have received Mother Saraswati's blessing and therefore you could compose, anyone who receives Mother Saraswati's blessings can also be Shruti Vak. Means hearing one time and remember. Just like Sutta Goswami. Sutta Goswami, along with his father, Romaharshana Rishi, were at the assembly of Parikshit Maharaj when Shukdev Goswami was speaking. He heard it once, Sutta Goswami, and he recollected every single thing. So when he came to Naimisharanya, he was able to give everything. When I put my devotees into difficulty, and thus the devotee becomes more purified in exchanging transcendental bhav with me, that is what Krishna wants. He wants every one of us to come to that stage where the bhav here means loving exchanges, loving emotions. It are these loving exchanges and loving emotions which is percolated and becomes rasa. And it is this rasa that Krishna is constantly tasting and giving us also to taste. Therefore, the material relations are based on reciprocation of material enjoyment, which depends mainly on material resources. Therefore, when material resources are withdrawn by the Lord, the devotee is 10% attracted towards transcendental loving service of the Lord. When devotees become too attached, then the degree of surrender is not full. His material attachments keep him in doing so. So when the Lord becomes very much merciful, seeing that on one hand, the devotee is praying and wants to give up these material attachments and engage in full surrender, then, as the Lord is saying, I bestow special mercy. Jasyaham anugrahami harishe tadhanam kshanai. When I bestow my special mercy on someone, seeing that he's struggling but he's not able to, at that time, anugrahami, my special mercy. Harishe tadhanam kshanai. At that very moment, I take away all his possessions and make him into a pauper. Make him into a pauper. Of course, for the devotee, what is this? Hare Krishna. Although he becomes a pauper, the dependence on Krishna makes him completely happy and satisfied. He doesn't feel. And at that moment, all his relatives and friends, they abandon him, saying that he is poor, finished. He cannot do anything for us anymore. And at that time, the devotee realizes, other than the spiritual master and Krishna and the Vaishnavas, I have no real friend in the material world. That they have gone because Krishna has taken away all my wealth and that they have all gone. That is a great relief for me. I could not do that on my own to get away from these attachments to different family members and attachment to wealth and assets and this and that. So therefore Krishna is saying, Jasyaham anugrahami. Anugrahami, anugraham means special mercy. Questions?
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
This kind of mercy, where the Lord takes away all the material assets, He bestowed upon Kanishtadhikari also.
Only those who Krishna realizes have been struggling very much and sincere, because he's the Paramatma, he knows exactly the intentions of every living entity. So to help that devotee only, we may feel that, oh, Krishna has taken away all his wealth and possessions. But the devotee feels great relief. Oh, at last I've got relief from all this. He doesn't lament the fact. So therefore, it doesn't depend on neophyte or this or that. It depends on one's sincerity of faith.
But this kind of sincerity is not prevalent among the Kanishtas.
I mean, why are you stuck with Kanishta and Madhyam? Try to realize that it can be with anyone and everyone. There's no designations given. Can be anyone. If a Kanishta is that sincere and is finding difficulty in overcoming these attachments, then Krishna will also do it. Krishna doesn't care if you're Kanishta or Uttam.
Krishna is known as Leela Purushottam, and Lord Ram is known as Maryada Purushottam. Lord Ram's Leelas are always going on or not?
Yes. All the time going on, yes.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So when Krishna so desires, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Srila Prabhupada blesses us, we shall get to hear Harikatha very soon again. I thank all of you for your patient hearing and beg forgiveness for all the mistakes I have committed. Let us once again offer our most humble obeisances at the lotus feet of Srila Vyasadeva, Srila Sukhdev Goswami, Srila Sutta Goswami, Srila Parikshit Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada. Let us also offer our most humble respect, obeisances to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna and all his eternal associates, and our most heartfelt respect for the King of all scriptures, Sri Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna, and all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.